Hello folks, I'm Billy Pennell. Thanks for joining me for another of my favourite musical moments. I want to introduce you to a musician who came from the same area in Australia, which is Melbourne, in the state of Victoria. And he became a champion of the Australian blues scene. I'll get to that in just a moment. The area where I lived, there were live venues everywhere, all over the place, within walking distance some. And so I was able to go and watch live music if I wanted to every night of the week. This is going back now to, as I say, to the mid-1980s. And so I wandered down one night to one of my favourite licensed venues, and there was a band playing there. I can't recall the name of the band now, but they had a member who was the singer and the tenor saxophone player, and he made a huge impression on me. Just the charisma, it's something that's hard to put into words, and so I was determined to go back and see that band again. I didn't even know what the name of the band was. So anyhow, I hear now that, and the bloke's name was Chris Wilson, the one that impressed me so much. And then somebody told me the fella you like who was playing at the pub the other week, he's now got a new band, a blues band. So there I go to see Chris Wilson's blues band, and they are dynamic. Chris is playing some of the most exciting amplified harmonica playing I'd ever heard. He was just quite extraordinary in his dexterity, in the way that he dealt with each song in its own individual way. And in chatting to him at another, it might have been during that night or later on, so I said to him, who are some of the harmonica players that you listen to form your style? He said, the two major ones when I first started to listen to this sort of music were Mick Jagger in the Rolling Stones and Paul Jones in Manfred Mann. Two great harmonica players. But some of my mates said to me, listen, you've got to go back to the source. If you want to learn about the true magic of blues harmonica playing, you've got to go and seek out Sonny Boy Williamson, Little Walter, James Cotton, Howling Wolf. And that's what Chris did, and he was able to imbibe the spirits of those extraordinary musicians to have a very long and successful career until his death in 2019. I remember seeing that his band were booked to open for Bob Dylan in a concert in Melbourne. So I got to see Chris at another day after the concert. Said, "How'd the show go with Bob Dylan?" And he said, "Did you get to meet him?" And he said, We weren't housed near where his people were within the venue, so we had a little spot on our own. And I was packing up, ready to go home, and the door just opened. No one knocked. They just walked in. It was Bob Dylan, and he said to me, "You are a great harmonica player." That's all he said. And he turned on his heel and walked out. And I said to myself, this is Chris talking, if anybody ever came in and said, I think you're a bit of a dud, you're not a very good singer, and you don't really like your music, I can always say, well, Bob Dylan told me something different. He also was asked to put a band together for John Lord, who was the keyboard player in Deep Purple, who was doing an Australian tour. And John Lord's roots were classical, jazz and rock. And Chris was the perfect accompanist. There were 3 or 4 other people within the band, but Chris played harmonica and sang, and it was a great show. And I also noticed that during the performances I saw with Chris, there was an opportunity that he would take where he would just be performing a song that didn't require all the excitement that goes into electric blues music. And it's a song he wrote called Blackbirding, and it dealt with the slave trade between South Pacific island countries and Indigenous Australians in the 19th century. And he was able to put into words the tragedy of those situations in such a positive and such a sensitive way. And so, as a result of all of the music that he put down, he became one of the leading figures in live music in Australia. And in case I didn't mention this also, during his live performances, I would often see him quietly talking to people who were in the crowd, who were in the audience. And I remember him just talking to a young girl and was very polite to her and said to her, "Look, would you like to come up and sing a song?" I'm thinking he knew that she was a blues singer or a singer. And so this young girl came up on stage and was allowed to sing a couple of songs between sets for Chris. He did it a couple of times when I was there. So I would like to just dedicate our little chat this afternoon to somebody who became my dear friend, and just finish off with a song that Chris would perform rather, but every live performance that I can ever recall him doing. And it was a song by Junior Parker, the harmonica player, singer, who in 1953 recorded a song called Mystery Train that was later covered about 3 years later by Elvis Presley for the Sun Sessions album. So I would like to leave you now with this great performance from Chris Wilson singing the Junior Parker song, and just with a warning, put your seatbelts on.
Lord, at 16, gorgeous Lord. Well, can I ride? Lord, at 16, gorgeous Lord. Well, a long black train, it took my baby, now she's gone. Now she's gone. Mr. Train rolling down the track. I said, Mr. Train, what you rolling down the track? Well, it took my baby, but my baby, she's coming back. Coming back. Watch it rolling down the line. I said, Mr. Train, watch it rolling down the line. Well, I took my baby, oh my baby, she's all mine. She's on my